Okay, welcome to Monday meeting. Our first order of business is risk pool workshop. Are you running that one, Shelley, or? Okay.
Happy Monday. Shelley Pierce, Risk Management, Risk and Safety Manager. I have Chuck from our risk pool who is going to be doing a workshop and sharing all of the wonderful things that the risk pool provides for Cowlitz County.
Okay.
And so I will turn it over to Chuck.
Thank you very much. Again, Chuck Boyd, I'm the Executive Director at the Washington County's Risk Pool. If I may really quick, I've got a copy of the presentation that's on the slideshow. Okay. In case you wanted to make any notes, Chuck.
Yeah, thank you. Appreciate it. Thank you.
Thank you.
You did put it on. Oh, I know you would. No.
Then IT is not my world. How do I advance?
Oh, you can just stay next.
Perfect. Okay. Now that we've got all the IT stuff taken care of. Again, I'm the Executive Director of the Risk Pool. And what I wanted to talk today about is the Washington County Risk Pool and the benefits of being a member of the pool. Cowlitz County has been actually a founding member of the Risk Pool when it was created back in October 1st of 1988. The first slide, or the next slide, is a map of the current membership. So all of the counties that are in green are members of the county's risk pool. There's 24 of the 39 counties in the state. It's tough to see on the map online, but on the handout, the counties that are in white are members. There's a smaller risk pool out of Eastern Washington. There's 10 member counties in that risk pool. And then the large 5 counties are self-insured, Snohomish, King, Pierce, Kitsap, and Clark County. But the risk pool was formed, legislation back in the 80s, I believe it was prior to the 80s, allowed municipalities, cities, and counties to group together to group purchase their insurance coverage. Insurance got super expensive in the 80s. They called it the insurance crisis, where it was cost prohibitive in many cases for individual counties or cities to secure their insurance coverage, and it was very volatile. So with the legislation under the RCW, the 16 member counties that originally started the pool came together to group purchase their insurance. The mission of the WCRP is to provide comprehensive and economical risk coverage to reduce the frequency and severity of losses and to decrease the costs incurred in the management and litigation of claims. So what we're trying to do is come together and as a group with risk management, claims handling, as well as working together collaboratively to reduce the claims that we have, the severity of claims, the frequency of claims, and make our insurance coverage economical for our member counties. Briefly, I wanted to give an overview of the risk pool. And we're unique in the aspect that we have a board of directors, and of our board of directors, each county designates a director or an alternate to be the voting member. So whenever we have our board meetings, which we'll have one at the end of the month in Vancouver, every county has a voice and a representation. There are a lot of entities and some risk pools where they'll have a large membership, but they'll have the board of directors that's making decisions is a very small subset of their entire membership. Here with the Washington County's risk pool, the way that it was set up was that each member gets a voice and a vote when it comes to any business for the pool. The board of directors, there's a president, vice president, and secretary. Of those 24 directors or alternates, I'm sorry, for each county is a member of the executive committee. The executive committee is tasked with the overseeing of the day-to-day running of the pool. I work with the executive committee quite a bit, especially when we have cases that we need settlement authority to resolve a case. I will communicate with the executive committee, so it's not just the risk pool making decisions on its own when it comes to a settlement of a case. We'll work with the executive committee. The executive committee is the screening of all materials and information before it goes to the board of directors. Then there's myself. Then the pool, we have three directors, a director of member services, a director of risk and claims, and a director of finance and operations, and then staff below that. But
Can I ask a question in here?
absolutely.
On the, you said the white is a smaller risk pool and the green is the one we're in. Are these two connected or are they?
No, they're separate
They're
entities.
total, but separate entities, okay.
The risk pool out of Eastern Washington, they are Clear, I believe it's Clear Risk Solutions is their name. The county's portion of that, so they have different pools that they actually manage. They're not just, we're a county's pool only and nothing else. That risk pool has cities, has some school districts, has some special districts, and they were, I believe it was the Washington Rural Counties Insurance Program, and they have now changed. We go by the WCRP. They have now changed their name in the last 2 years, I believe, to the WCRG. Washington County's Risk Group is what they go by now, but Clear Risk Solutions. They're out of Ephrata. So the risk pool, what it is and what it's not. We're not traditional insurance. We're also not a safety net for unmanaged risks. We're a group of member counties that group together to joint purchase coverages. And we talk about the coverages that are purchased, liability, which is the largest, then property for all of the county properties, cybercrime and terrorism coverage are purchased through the risk pool. Every member of the risk pool is a member for liability and property. The cybercrime and terrorism are optional coverages. Majority of our counties secure those coverages through the risk pool, but some do it on their own. Risk pool is not workers' comp or health benefits or wellness, and the risk pool does not get involved with the Public Records Act or Open Public Meetings Act. There was 1 year that there was coverage for Public Records Act long before I was with the pool, and it was a 1 year only. I believe it was 2009. So it wasn't covered before, and then it was changed so that it's no longer part of the coverages. And I'll talk about that towards the end as far as the coverages and how, when I say coverages are changed, before I end the presentation today. When we look at the risk pool, we are a target-based funding. We're looking for rate stability, prudent investing, regulatory compliance. We are, unlike an insurance company, insurance companies report to and are governed by the Washington State Office of Insurance Commissioner. Risk pools are not. We report to the Department of Enterprise Services, the Office of Risk Management for the state of Washington. So when we do all of our annual reporting and do our audit every year with the state of Washington, it goes to the risk manager, not to the insurance commissioner's office. And that's a key difference between risk pools and insurance companies when it comes to solvency requirements. Insurance companies, in order to operate within the state of Washington, have to meet solvency requirements, basically their financial health. They are much higher than the requirements for risk pools because we are a joint self-insurance program. The member counties are responsible for the finances of the pool. So if we were to technically go into insolvency, the pool and the membership can work with the Office of Risk Management to get back into the green, out of the red, so to speak, where insurance companies are profit motive and they don't have that ability to make those changes, whether it's adding straight to our fund balance, whether it's assessments for prior years that we've had a bad experience with claims for our members. So it's a different set of requirements between insurance companies and risk pool at the state level. Funding for the future, that is the key. That is something that this risk pool has worked on and has done a good job with over the years. Now, over the years, insurance market has changed. When I first started with the risk pool, we had the pool itself had a $100,000 self-insured retention. And now as we sit here today, we're at a $3 million self-insured retention per claim. So the market has forced us to own more of the claims and the payments that are coming out of the risk pool for covered losses. And that has a direct impact on our finances. On the bar chart, you'll see back in 2020, we had about $19.8 million in our net position. And that's assets minus liabilities gets us to our net position. We got up during COVID to 26.6 million, but we have, as courts have opened up as we've come out of COVID, a lot of those cases sat stagnant during COVID and didn't resolve. Those now are coming to fruition to resolve, and we have had some large claims. There's no way to sugarcoat that. We have had large claims. They have taken a toll on our net position on claim payouts. And so we're working now to fund for the future. We've also been hit recently with the sex abuse and molestation claims. The state has really been hit hard with those types of claims. The counties, the risk pool for our member counties, we have about 130 claims. The state, I believe that they're in litigation over 600 or 700 claims, if not more, is my understanding of it. So there's a lot that's going on with our finances. And right now what we're trying to do is weather the storm. Washington is a very, very difficult state for insurance. It's a difficult state with jury verdicts, with the tort caps, joint and several liability. Those are all issues that we all face, and funding is the key. But the answer in the long term is risk management and stopping the claims that are coming in or setting them up for success.
Chuck, real quick, with regards to your statement about the big claims, are we seeing a trend that the claims are getting bigger and more frequent, more often, or where are we at with that, do you think?
Yeah, yes and no. Yeah, bigger, yes. Social inflation, yes. Settlements have gone up. Jury verdicts. It's interesting when we talk about the jury verdicts, and when I first started with the risk pool, and I was in private insurance before that, it was almost like there's Eastern Washington and Western Washington were two separate states from the standpoint of the venues, the awards. You used to be able to say Eastern Washington did not come up with verdicts like Western Washington as far as the dollar amount. And you can't say that anymore because we're getting very large verdicts out of Eastern Washington. The risk pool had an employment case that went to trial, and we got a $19.8 million adverse verdict against the pool or against the member county. Here within the last month, the state got an adverse verdict on a sex abuse case for $42 million. Earlier this year, UPS out of Yakima got an employment wrongful discharge discrimination claim, was a $142 million verdict out of Yakima, which again, that was unheard of when I started with the risk pool to get well into the 8 figures, if not into the 9 figures on settlements. I have my thoughts and theories on why that has happened, and the dispersal of jury pools, if you will. But there's no concrete evidence with it, but we are seeing a rise in settlements. And as these headlines come out, and when we're working with plaintiffs' attorneys, it's just ratcheting up the bar of what they're willing to settle for, which is force us to try a case or pay more to resolve it. And if we have bad facts, it's not going to get better for us. So we need to resolve some of the cases that we have. And that's ultimately what's happening is the social inflation and the cost of claims. Absolutely. When we talk about the risk pool and benefits of the risk pool, we provide a lot of resources. Some are specialized resources. Some are just everyday resources. So training. Our member services team does an excellent job of providing training for our member counties. A lot of it used to be in person. Now with coming out of COVID and Zoom and Teams meetings, there's a lot of virtual or on-demand training. Scholarships. We provide a lot of scholarships to our member counties, whether it's a partial scholarship for training or a full scholarship. And we're at the point now where we have our member counties actually reaching out to us saying, hey, we need training in this area. whatever that may be. Supervisory one-on-one training. You've got new managers that need training. They'll reach out. We will either, if it's possible, we will provide it ourselves. We will contract with somebody to provide the training for our members, or we'll group with other risk pools that have the same need, with the city's pool, WCIA or AWC, and have that cooperative so that we can, use our funds wisely and buying power. Lexipol, the 80-80-80 reimbursement program for our member counties that use Lexipol for their law enforcement policies and procedures. Every year, if the county implements 80% of the updates that come out by Lexipol each year, and they are state specific, implementing 80%, Lexipol does a daily training bulletin. So like the deputies here in Cowlitz County, they get into their vehicle to go to work. The daily training bulletin will pop up on their screen. Quick question, they answer it. If they answer it incorrectly, it will give a scenario as to why the answer was incorrect. If it's correct, great, good job. Those are tracked so that in the totality over the end of the year, if the agency has an 80% or higher score on the daily training bulletins, so that we know that it's being used and being successful, then the risk pool reimburses the county 80% of your annual cost for Lexipol. We believe that Lexipol policies, practices, best practices, and procedures, is the best risk management tool that we can have. So if our member counties are buying into it and implementing it, then we want to help reimburse some of those costs because they're significant costs. And the cybersecurity awareness training and reimbursement program, same. Our member counties enter into their agreement for their, like KnowBe4 is one of the main programs that we base the model off of for reimbursement. There are other software programs out there, but it's again for cybersecurity and cybersecurity awareness, phishing emails. We've seen that emails are one of the biggest problems that we have with staff clicking on an attachment and unknowingly, malware or some sort of virus. So the risk pool reimburses for the cybersecurity on a user basis. How many users do you have? The risk reduction program, the risk pool budgets and offers up to $5,000 for each member county each fiscal year. $3,000 of the is open for any risk management. $2,000 has to be specific to every year. Our risk management committee sets targeted risk management goals. And I can tell you year after year, it's been law enforcement, it's been roads, potholes, road design claims have been our frequency. They're low severity, high frequency. But what we're looking at is the little things that aren't budgeted for that are needed and warranted. One member county had an issue at their landfill where their staff was backing into things all the time, Jersey barriers, buildings, things. So they reached out, they put aftermarket backup cameras on the license plate cameras on their county vehicles so that they could stop any potential issues from happening and damage to vehicles. We've had theft problems. They put locks on vehicles. One county had an issue that the fairgrounds, the grandstands, the little non-slip strip on the stair tread was wearing out and falling apart. They hadn't budgeted for it. They reached out, and before the fair started, we got them fitted with all new non-skid material so that we didn't have a potential liability issue of somebody slipping and falling at the fair. So again, the point of it is for the small things that aren't budgeted for, but it's something there because we all face budget issues every day. So we're planning for the unexpected. The contract, I'll come back to the pre-defense review, but the contract review and contract training, we do offer contracts training to talk about the insurance and indemnification and importance of transferring risk via contracts. We provide that training, but we also will review contracts that our member counties are considering entering into and give our feedback. Now, we're unique from the standpoint that our member counties can enter into a contract and bind the risk pool and other member counties, since it's a group, to a liability exposure without our permission. You don't have to ask. So when we look at what is being contracted. We're only wanting to know what is it that you're doing so we can think about what are the risks associated with that contract, and then looking at are there sufficient limits that you're asking for from the person or entity that you're contracting with? Is there strong language for defense and indemnification and hold harmless agreements? And we provide those services. So we will review those and give you our recommendations and work with Shelley, work with Doug Jensen in the prosecutor's office to figure out what's the best. And sometimes what our counties do is risky. And sometimes we have to take on that risk because it's better for the community and it just needs to happen. And we understand that. A sample policy library, we do have a sample policy library on our website so that if a member county is looking at a new program, we may already have a sample policy because another county may have already started the program. And there's no sense in reinventing the wheel. We have the benefit of seeing what 24 member counties do. So we try to share that knowledge as much as possible. When we have a member county reach out, with a question. If it's something new to us, great. We can reach out to the membership and ask questions. If it's something that we know another county's already dealt with, we may get Shelley in touch with somebody, our contact at the other member county. So again, we're trying to move everything forward and not reinvent the wheel. But the most important on the everyday resources here, in my opinion, is a pre-defense review program. And that is designed for if we have an issue that we believe or the county believes will potentially result in a claim against the county and involving the risk pool. Shelley, for Cowlitz County, Shelley would reach out to us and say, we've got this issue. And a majority of our pre-defense reviews are employment-related matters. We've got an employee that we're having issues with, and we want to make sure that we cross all the Ts, dot all the Is. They'll reach out after talking with the prosecuting attorney's office to the risk pool. We will then, if it's appropriate, retain outside counsel to give the member county legal advice so that we, again, cross all the Ts, dot all the Is. And I've seen all outcomes of that. I've seen outcomes where hey, you shouldn't separate employment. You should performance manage this person and set them up for success. Maybe you should terminate. Maybe you should have a separation agreement. All of those are possibilities. The goal is to, if there's going to be a claim, to make it as defensible as possible or not have the claim at all, if that is possible. The pre-defense review program is free to our members. So out of our budget, this current year, we had over $500,000 in the budget for pre-defense review files. As we're doing our budgeting for fiscal year 2026, I'm asking to increase that from the board because the program is being used. The tough part is how do you quantify the success of the program other than when we don't have a claim that comes in? That can be subjective, but I believe that the pre-defense review program and setting things up for success is part of the key to the long-term overall health and success of the pool. And again, there's no cost to the members, so we pay the entire cost up until or unless a claim is actually filed. Then we'll work with our member county to find that cutoff date to where the claim actually becomes a claim and the county's deductible starts to play a factor in the claim.
Yeah. Couple of things. Wow. There's probably no direct cost. I mean, we don't get a bill, but it's built into the,
Yes.
what we pay. And I get that. I'm not concerned about that. I was wanting to head back to those big claims you've seen in Eastern Washington. Are these something we've identified that these counties did wrong, or are we seeing differences in jury pools and judges?
So definitely, I believe there's a difference in jury pools. The judges in the court system and the rulings, sometimes I don't always understand like the thought and rationality. I mean, I understand that there's a law. I'm not an attorney, but in looking at the facts of a case.
Well, attorneys don't agree on the law either.
This is true. Absolutely. So we have had some rulings, but I will tell you the case that specifically involved the risk pool, that was a $19.8 million verdict. I thought on a home run day that plaintiff would get $500,000, maybe $750,000. I did not see a seven-figure verdict out of that case. I mean, it was just shocking to me based on the facts of that case.
Well, And I would agree, if the assessment is that we have a change in the jury pools and the judges, I would probably agree with that. Tort reform. Do you guys work with Olympia on tort reform? I know
That's
I talk with our people.
absolutely great question. We are starting to, this year, in fact, at the July board meeting, the board authorized the creation of a legislative steering committee, and we have gone out to an RFP for a lobbyist to assist. I truly believe that we need to strike now. The iron is hot, and I say that from
Yeah.
a standpoint that
It's going to have to be a legislative fix.
absolutely, it's going to have to be a legislative fix for tort caps, if possible. I don't see that we're going to get rid of joint and several liability, but we're going to try every avenue that we possibly can, because we've got to do something. We can't just sit and do nothing at this point and sit and wait, because we're not getting any help, and Washington is not friendly from the insurance environment. Absolutely.
Chuck, it seems like, to Commissioner Dahl's question, it seems like the awards from the ones that I have just read and looked at, with the change in the jury pool, it seems like they're more punitive awards as opposed to just trying to make somebody whole, almost as if they're trying to punish the corporation or the entities, and that's why they're awarding these big, huge awards. And it is gonna take a legislative, action to, I think, to change that. But as counties, as we're bracing for this storm of awards and liability litigations and all that kind of stuff, is one of the ways, is really the only way that we can offset those costs by increasing our premiums and having more of a self-insured retention. I mean, what do we do? Is there anything that we can do to mitigate that?
The short-term answer is funding, and we may have to take higher self-insured retentions. I personally believe that the key to it is the risk management from the standpoint of the top down in our county leadership. That everybody, whatever the risk appetite or profile is, that everybody buys into it. All department heads, all elected officials, and everybody puts on their Cowlitz County hat for whatever the issue that you're dealing with, and then take that hat off and put on a risk pool hat and say, how is this going to affect not only Cowlitz County, but how will it affect the risk pool if something goes bad with whatever the situation may be? And if we can get that mentality and thought process along all of our electeds and department heads, that's the win, because staff is going to mirror what leadership does. And I think that that's the way to get us through the storm and the long run. We have some claims that are large. When we talk about the large claims, specifically, it's been law enforcement and corrections. Corrections have been the biggest part of it, which gets us into
Even, I'll opine for a minute because this stuff drives me nuts. We're given a figure, or the figure I heard was about $3 billion that the state of Washington owes in tort claims against them, about $3 billion. And that's the biggest grift I've ever seen. You file a suit against the state, who pays that? It's a backdoor tax. And then those claims go to NGOs to spend the money on supposedly fix something. The mafia doesn't have grip like that. It's unreal.
Yeah.
And so tort reform is going to be a tough push because I think they use it to gather money from the public.
Yeah.
But it needs to be fought.
absolutely. I believe, and we're not only fighting a battle to change for a legislative fix, but we're also fighting the plaintiffs' bar. They're very well organized. They communicate very effectively, and with these jury awards that are coming out, they have war chests when it comes to the funding to keep things status quo. So it's definitely a major shift. It's a hurdle to get a shift. So
Okay, I'll get off the horse for a minute.
Chuck, real quick, is the Lexipol, is that a voluntary program or are all the counties involved in that?
it's voluntary.
Are we involved in that, Shelley? Okay.
Yes, yeah, Cowlitz County is involved with it. When we talk about specialized support on the next slide, um, we realized that we had a problem with corrections. So we went to the board approved money out of our fund balance for inmate health monitoring and narcotics detection devices. A couple of years ago, it was the narcotics detection devices. We had a lot of overdoses, a lot of contraband that were getting into facilities. So we were able to provide some money towards our member counties purchasing or acquiring the narcotics detection devices. The Cadillac of them all, I think it was an MX-98 is the model. It is a sensor that you can actually take a Ziploc bag with something in it and put it up to the sensor and it'll tell you what's in the bag. To me, that had a huge benefit, not only to identifying what you're dealing with in a situation, but also a work comp, even though we're not involved in work comp, because we don't have our correction staff opening a bag and powder or anything coming out of it that may be harmful to our staff. That was the best. That technology I thought was phenomenal. Not all of our members took advantage or could afford that. It was very expensive. We were only able to allow $12,500 to our member counties, and that was like a $70,000 piece of equipment. I mean, it is not cheap, but it's definitely beneficial. But the point is to what can we do? We can't do everything, but what can we do? On the inmate health monitoring, we identified two pieces of technology. One is a wearable like an Apple Watch. The other is a ceiling-mounted sensor inside a cell for a single individual, and it monitors heart rate, breath rate, body temperature. Basically, when you have somebody that we're concerned about, we can't sit and watch somebody 24 hours a day. And we do a great job with our cell checks every hour, every 30 minutes, depending on the situation, the person, if they're at risk to harm themselves. But again, we can't see everything. So the technology is intended to identify if somebody is having a medical issue, then the sensor goes off. What I've seen is a monitor that's in like the control room that'll have all of the sensors, whether they're the wearables or the in-cells, show up on the monitor like a traffic light. Green, everything's great. Yellow, something's going on. Red, there's a problem. We need to get there. And it's customizable to the person as far as you get somebody with a low resting heart rate, a marathon runner that happens to be in custody. So you can, working with jail medical, you can make some adjustments to the parameters of what the sensors are trying to get to and monitor. And then if something happens, you know right away, we need to go to this person or to this cell and see what's going on. You may find out that they decided to do a bunch of jumping jacks and their heart rates spiked. Okay, great. I will tell you that one of our member counties had somebody that it saved his life to go to jail that day. He was in custody, he was in the cell, and they have the in-cell monitors. He collapsed. No risk factors through the screening process. They got to him, they got him to the hospital, they ended up life flighting him to, I believe, Seattle, somewhere, I don't know if it's Harborview. Anyways, he had an undiagnosed brain tumor that caused a brain bleed, and he dropped in the cell. Had he been at home, he probably would not have survived that. So again, the point of the inmate health monitoring is for the things that we see the claims from, the overdoses, the withdrawals, contraband getting into the facility and somebody overdosing, suicide risk, self-harm. That's the intent of it. But this was an unintended benefit for this individual that had a brain tumor that nobody knew about. He didn't even know about it. When we talk about, again, corrections and law enforcement are a big part of our risk management and the claims that we're seeing from frequency and severity. So what can we do? The board approved a few years ago during COVID, we purchased 2 virtual reality training-based systems. We know that as new staff comes into the sheriff's office or into the jail, there's going to be mistakes. Things are going to happen. There's a learning curve. We totally understand that. So what can we do? Well, we were researching technology, and there's virtual reality systems that are scenario-based that can help our member counties with the training as far as the resources that are needed for the training. And if there's going to be a mistake, let's have it in the virtual reality world. Let's not have it on the road or in the jail. The nice part about that, of the virtual reality, is that you really only need 3 people. You need somebody running the computer, whoever's being on the training side of it, and then somebody for safety because they're wearing a VR helmet so they don't walk into a wall or something. But you can also plug it into a TV and everybody in the room can see what's on the VR. They can hear what the person that's doing the training and what they're saying. So you can have peer feedback and group discussions about situations. And the nice part about it is if you show up, like one of the scenarios was a high-risk traffic stop, the person on the computer can ramp up the agitation of the individual that you stopped, or they can de-escalate it. And they may de-escalate it because you're doing an awesome job, but then they just decide on a whim to escalate it to see how you react. And all of those things are real life scenarios. That does happen. So if there's going to be a problem or a learning opportunity, let it happen in the virtual reality world, not in the real world. Regional police and jail training programs. The risk pool has partnered with ARC Tactical and NIJO, National Institute of Jail Operations. Again, in-service and online options for training. We've also done some special projects. We've had counties reach out and say, hey, we've had a lot of accidents in this roundabout. Can you help us with that? One of our senior risk analysts is retired law enforcement. So we went out, we looked at the scene, I mean, working with the county and the roads department, but then also pulling all the police reports and what happened and what's going on. It turns out, yes, there's a lot of accidents at this roundabout, but they're all driver responsibility, speeding, things like that. Not a problem with the roundabout, nothing that the county could do any better. Fairgrounds walkthroughs, we do a lot of those to look for risk hazards. Playground inspections, looking at those because again, there is at parks and playgrounds, and if the county has a park at a lake, there's risk hazards that are there. So we'll come and take a look at those and give our feedback. From the pool-wide management side, we're working on strategies to reduce the liability exposure. We do annual site visits, so at least once a year, someone from our risk management team will reach out to Shelley, come down and have an in-person meeting to talk about claims trends, claims frequencies, and risk assessments. Property loss reviews. The risk pool provides the AMP inventory system, so all of our county properties are listed with their values in a database so that for our total insured value for our property program. We'll assist as much as we can with risk management policy implementation support. We do track all of our claims, so we have the ability for data analytics to identify trends and reduce claims. Membership compact training, that's the membership compact, the interlocal agreement between our member counties and the pool. We provide training on the agreements. Member snapshots, give annual reports are shared with board members, risk managers, and claims administrators to give a snapshot of a member county. How well you're doing as far as training, what training you're taking care of, what programs are you involved with. And then lastly, we get to the claims. The risk pool has claim staff. We have the director of risk and claims. We have 3 adjusters. We adjust all claims and manage defense counsel. We work closely with the county identified claims administrator and or the prosecutor's office, depending on sometimes someone from the prosecutor's office is the designated claims administrator. Sometimes Shelley's the designated claims administrator and working with Doug from the prosecutor's office. Interpret and apply the MLC, the Memorandum of Liability Coverage. We have the electronic claim system for reporting. We work with our member counties to coordinate settlements. And then work with and report to all of the reinsurers. So when we talk about our insurance, and specifically in relation to Cowlitz County has a $100,000 deductible per occurrence or per claim. So the county is responsible from $1 to $100,000. The risk pool then steps in from $100,001 to $3 million, because that's our self-insured retention is the $3 million. We purchase reinsurance up to $10 million and then excess insurance up to $20 million. Everybody in the membership for liability has $20 million in coverage. 16 of the 24 counties purchase an optional $5 million in excess for a total of $25 million in limits. There's a lot of reinsurers that are on our program that we work with. And so we do all of the coordination and communication with the reinsurers and the excess insurers so that our member counties don't have to do any of that. The coverage for our reinsurance is a follow the fortunes, meaning that we get the claim, we look at our MLC, interpret for coverage, and our reinsurers follow the fortunes. Yes, they have a say from the standpoint they can give their advice. They can, if there was something that wasn't covered, they could argue that point. Other than that, if we had clear liability on a case and we settled it, then they are obligated contractually to reimburse us for the cost above the $3 million of the SIR. And that's the total incurred cost, meaning all of our expenses plus any verdict or settlement amount. And when we talk about the specifically, well, let me back up since that's the end of the slideshow presentation. Any questions? 'Cause I have a couple of comments just specific to Cowlitz County and program usage, but any questions?
What's the future look like for us in the immediate future with regards to our deductibles and are we gonna stay at 100,000? Are we moving that deductible up to the counties? Where are we at with that?
Currently, there is no, our member counties can choose their deductible. So Cowlitz County can choose its deductible and change your deductible. We have $10,000 to $500,000 per occurrence. Spokane and Yakima have the 500,000. Smaller counties have the 10,000. That is a decision for the member counties. And yes, there is if you were to choose to go with a lower deductible, then the assessment would have an increase. I can't tell you specific. It's not dollar for dollar. So I can't tell you specifically what it would be. Or if Cowlitz County chose to raise the next from 100 to 250, then there would be a factor involved with the annual assessment. There's nothing right now. President Overbay, who's Commissioner Kevin Overbay from Chelan County, is the president of the board right now. For this year, there have been the start of some discussions about should there be minimum deductibles for any county within a membership, but there's been no action and there's nothing on the table right now to say a minimum has to be 50,000 or a minimum has to be $100,000. And right now, as it sits, our member counties have the choice of their deductible.
Tell me, financial health, how you guys are doing. Because I get bugs in my ear that tell me that there's some issues with you in the state, and I don't know where to even look or even have a
Absolutely.
comment on that.
Absolutely. So from a financial standpoint, when we talked about the solvency requirements, we work with PricewaterhouseCoopers, who's our actuary, and they take our losses and our loss history from the pool as a whole to project our target-based funding. Most recently, the actuarial study that was done say that our net position should be $129 to $167 million. And at the end of fiscal year 2024, we were at 15 million. We have had an increase in those claims that we have on the books. The projections, we're working on that right now with our actuary, and I don't have finalized numbers because we're also working for rate setting for the end of the year. But we were against the guardrail last year. When I say against the guardrail, meaning that the solvency test from the Department of Enterprise Services, Office of Risk Management. And then, so we are facing the guardrail, and I believe that we are going to hit the guardrail this year. We are going to dip into that red zone. It doesn't mean that we're insolvent. That doesn't mean that the pool is going to fail. But what happens is that the state then asks us as the pool, how are you going to fix it? How are you going to get off the guardrail or stop the accident from becoming catastrophic? Again, the answer to that is money and funds up front, and long-term is risk management. The key to that, though, is instead of us finding out later, we're doing all of our rate setting in October for fiscal year 2026. So depending on the decisions that are made by the board of directors at the assessment level for rate setting and everything, we may solve the problem with the Office of Risk Management before it even becomes a conversation. Meaning that from the actuarial projections, and again, those are projections that can go up and down depending on our claim history, our loss experience, the settlements that we're having, and the open claims that we have and the reserves that we have. So the projections are that we are going to hit the guardrail this year, and we'll need to put money into fund balance into our net position to stay out of off the radar for the state. My goal and my hope there is that we do adequately fund. The board makes all of the decisions to adequately fund to get us outside of that solvency test, so that when Shannon Stuber is her name, when I have a conversation with her to say we're projected to be below, but we've already done our rate setting, we've set everything with our members, we're directly adding X number of dollars to fund balance. So now it's no longer a problem. Otherwise, if it goes unaddressed, then the state has the authority to step in then and tell us how to run our risk pool. I don't think that's not an option. So, but yes, we are up against the guardrail with funding. And some of that is in 2018, we had a $100,000 SIR. As we sit here today, we're in our third year of a $3 million SIR. So there's a lot of claims that are paid between deductibles and the SIR before our reinsurance comes into play. Some of the slides, and Commissioner Rader, you may have seen the slide at the July that when Craig from PricewaterhouseCooper presented that back in 2015, 2016, we were adequately funded, but we had such a small amount of skin in the game with a $100,000 SIR that those projections have now increased as we have taken on more with larger self-insured retentions, which takes more money to fund those claims. Because there's going to be good years and there's going to be bad years. Right now, we're experiencing some bad years. We're hoping for the good years to come and weather the storm. But it's not dire that the state's going to come in tomorrow and take over the risk pool. We have a lot of money, and it would take a long time to deplete the assets of the risk pool to not be able to meet the obligations to pay the claims. One difference with risk pools, again, versus insurance companies, risk pools have the ability to reassess. So if 2019 was a very, very bad year for us and we didn't collect enough in assessments, the membership could receive a mid-year invoice for a reimbursement for 2019. Insurance companies can't do that. When State Farm, Allstate, Geico, whichever insurance company, when they set their rates and their premiums, yes, they're profit motive, we are not, but they can't come back and go, wow, last year was a horrible year for catastrophes and hurricanes, and we lost money. So we need to send you a bill, and you need to come and pay us more money in premiums. They can't do that where risk pools can if we got to that situation. I do not want to get to that situation. I want to adequately plan and fund now and fund for the future so that we keep increasing our fund balance. And then as things are cyclical, as we weather this storm, if we get some relief at the legislative level, for whether it's tort caps, I don't see joint and several liability going away, but if we get some breathing room there, and then we have good years and good experience with less claims, then the money adds up very, very quickly. We've just got to get through the storm and get the claims that we have on the books off and not replace them with more claims.
Chuck, when you guys do the reassessment, are those reassessments based on a direct proportion to that county's liability for that year to the risk pool, or is it just spread evenly across the board?
That's a very good question. I can get you an answer for that. And I say the reason I don't know that is we haven't done it.
Okay.
Now, what we have done in the past where we've needed more money, it's been the board has approved to take it out of that fund balance, out of our savings account to cover those unexpected costs. So far we've been able to use fund balance to make it happen so that we're not invoicing our member counties above and beyond their annual assessment. So,
okay. So, you stated that with regard to the state, the solvency test, is that funding going to come directly from increased premiums from the county? Is that the only place it can come from?
yes. Well, yes and no. Yes, majority is from our member counties, but also income that's derived from our investment portfolio will help go to fund balance. Right now, we use Chandler Asset Management, and the last report I looked, we have about $104 million under management with Chandler, and we used Chandler, Spokane County, investment pool and LGIP, local government investment pool. We use, and then Wells Fargo is our bank account, right? So our Wells Fargo is for our daily day-to-day transactions. And then we use LGIP and Spokane County as our kind of in the middle to pull money back and forth. The goal is when it goes to Chandler Asset Management, it stays there and we're never going to pull it out. Can't guarantee that that may or may not happen, but that's the goal, is to get the money to Chandler and grow those investments. Right now, we're $4 to $5 million a year in investment income. But directly to your question, as far as to get us off the guardrail, it is going to be an infusion of funds through assessments from our member counties. Yes.
Well, I guess the one bright spot in the whole thing is that if we are relying on market returns, that the market is returning right now. So that's definitely a plus.
Absolutely. Real quickly, I just wanted to touch on we're going longer than initially planned. I did do some checking. So in the last 5 years, Cowlitz County has had 17 pre-defense review files that you've reached out to the risk pool to the tune of about $43,000 is what that's cost. I understand 43,000 compared to the annual assessments, but it is there for the counties to use. We encourage you to use it and use it often. Year to date, or for fiscal year 25, in member programs that the county has participated in, there's been about $35,000 that the county has received back. In the $3,000 in the risk reduction program, just under $15,000 for the cybersecurity, just over $15,000 for the Lexipol reimbursement, $3,500 in scholarships and trainings that the county has participated in. So, and those funds are available, and we encourage you to use them and use the programs as often as possible. Because at the end of the day, I believe that that's going to parlay into quality risk management and lowering the frequency and severity of claims. The last part that I wanted to touch on, or not last part, two things. One, we talked about the jury pools changing. I think COVID is responsible for that. And I say that because we have Western Washington, you've got Google, Amazon, Microsoft, you name it, these multi-billion-dollar companies, high wage earners. And that's where I think a lot of the West Side versus East Side came from as far as jury verdicts and settlement amounts. COVID happens and everybody's working from home, working remotely, and people that are high earners, hey, I have a house in Suncadia. Hey, I have a house in Lake Chelan. I've got a, whatever, in another part of the state. I don't need to be here. I can go there. So then they started working remotely from their second houses, so to speak. Then when things opened back up, not everybody had to go back into the office. So well, I don't want to go back to living in the city. I want to stay here. Now what you've done is you disperse the jury pool of people that are being called for jury duty, and income levels are drastically different than what they used to be from East Side versus West Side. There's no science to that. That's just my own thought and looking at what has happened over time. So I could be absolutely wrong, but I do believe that is part of it. And right now, I believe that we are in one of the largest, if not the largest, wealth transfer in the country. The baby boomers, as parents and grandparents pass away, and inheritances and wealth transfer to younger generations, it's unprecedented. So I think that's playing into the jury aspect of it. One last thing that with the pool, when we talk about the fund balance and contributing money directly to fund balance, I am aware that, and I completely support and understand the county looking at other insurance options. Totally get it. If a member county has been putting into, and Cowlitz County has been here since the beginning in 1988, and putting this money away into the fund balance, if a county leaves the risk pool, they leave that funding behind. It's not something that can go with you. So something to think about when you're analyzing and evaluating all of your options. When it comes to purchasing direct insurance from a broker, one thing to take into account is the stability of the insurance company that you're working with. Now, with the risk pool, if one of our reinsurers becomes insolvent and goes away, or is purchased by another insurance company, which happens. We get notified. We do all of that work at the risk pool to work with them and coordinate everything if there's a claim. I will tell you, we had a member county that left the risk pool for 1 year. They went and purchased insurance directly from the market. That insurer is insolvent and gone. So now that with some of we actually have a sex abuse claim from that year that the county is 100% uninsured for their portion of that loss as we're working through it. And I say portion because the alleged behavior may have spanned allegedly between 1999 and 2001, but year 2000, they were not a member. So the risk pool can't help out for year 2000. So something to keep in mind. The insurance company is very volatile, or not very volatile, can be depending on losses. So, and if you go with an individual insurance company and you have a bad loss year, they may force a higher deductible, raise rates. From their underwriting standpoint, their underwriting model is different than ours. Our underwriting model caps our claims at $100,000. So if there was a multi-million-dollar claim for Cowlitz County, it would affect Cowlitz County from an underwriting model standpoint as if it was a $100,000 claim. The reason that we cap those claims from the underwriting model is so we don't have these large peaks and valleys. To again, rate stability. We're here for our member counties. We want to be here for the long term with our members because it could be catastrophic if you had 2 or 3. I mean, we've had jail deaths and they're not low 5 or 6 figure claims. They are $1 million claims more often than not. And so if you had 2 in a year and then went for 5 years, there could be a huge spike in annual assessments. And that would likely be what you would see from an insurance company. But with us, we're capping it at $100,000 to try and ease some of that burden, to know that everybody at any given day, any one of our members is susceptible to a large claim. And again, we're here for the membership, not just the individual counties. When it comes to coverages, the last point I wanted to bring out about coverages, when you look at evaluating different coverage needs, what does that insurance cover? Does it cover everything that we do as far as the MLC? The MLC, the reason it's not an insurance policy and it's a memorandum of liability coverage is it is created by the risk pool and approved by the risk pool. So we write our own coverages, and it's intended to be what risks are all of our member counties in general facing. That's what we want to provide coverage for. There are things that are not covered, such as airports. Not every county has an airport. Ferry systems, not every county has a ferry. So we look at that, but we also have the ability to adjust our coverages. During COVID, all of the insurers ran out and said, we are excluding communicable diseases. They did not intend or want to cover anything COVID related. And we looked at that from the standpoint, well, our member counties could face that with action or inaction from our health departments. How do we get everybody back to work, and how do we follow all the rules if the rules are changing by the minute, by the day? So our reinsurers came to us and said, we're no longer going to cover communicable diseases. We had at that time a $2 million SIR. So I believe it was $2 million that year, but we changed the coverage, and we just wrote into the coverage that we're going to provide coverage up to $1 million per occurrence, $2 million in the aggregate, so that if something happens with one of our member counties, we're here for you. Where an insurance company, if they're outright just saying we're not covering communicable diseases, you may not be able to get that that flexibility as far as coverage goes. So things to keep in mind. But I completely support and understand looking at all of your options and weighing all of the options and coming to the best determination for Cowlitz County. That's what you're tasked with. I completely understand.
Couple things. I don't know if you know much about the other risk pool. Are they dealing with similar issues?
So I keep saying this is my last point. So when we talk about membership of the risk pool, yes, they're facing the same similar issues. It's my understanding that they have heavier into their insurance with a lower SIR and stop loss. But I can tell you that 2021, Garfield and Columbia County left Washington County's risk pool and joined that pool. In 2023, Skamania County left the Washington County's risk pool, joined that pool. At that same time, Klickitat County left that pool and joined. So we had a one-for-one swap in 2023. Klickitat joined, Skamania left. I have heard nothing but praise from Klickitat County. I have not talked to Skamania County. I've heard various things, but I have not talked to Skamania County. But I also can tell you that Garfield County and Columbia County reached out this last year to rejoin the pool. It takes a board vote to a majority vote from the entire board of directors to add a county, and the board, with everything going on in the storm that we're weathering, opted to not add those counties back into the risk pool because they would bring the same risks that any other counties bring, and their assessment on what they would add to the pool is not a large amount for what we're dealing with. So the philosophy of the board was, let's get everything in order for us right now and weather this storm with this group. And then we're not saying no to the future ever, but we're saying that just not right now. It's not the time to add somebody. So if a member county puts in their 12-month notice to leave the pool, there's no guarantee that the board of directors would approve returning to the pool. And I also wanted to touch on that too, as far as the 12-month notice. So we would need to get notice within the 12 months, but then you have, excuse me, I believe it's 6 months to rescind that. So if you put in a notice, it's not a final end all say all. It is just that this is our plan we're looking at, but we may rescind it at a later date and stay with the risk pool. I just want to make everybody aware that those are the process for it.
Yeah. Another question, and this will probably be kind of a direct question, and I apologize a little bit for that, but in my old life, I had responsibility over a lot of different branches and stuff. And when you'd have a issue at a branch, my decision was there something unique there that was causing that, or did we have a management issue? So that's kind of my question to you. I'm trying to decide, are we seeing some, my guess is, it looks like, I think tort reform is a big thing. I think there's some things that happened that have put us in the deal, and I don't even know how you answer this. How do I eliminate that it's a management issue?
Right.
You know what I'm saying?
I think I do. And so using that, when you say branches, if we were in this scenario to say every county in the membership is a branch, so what's going on with your individual county, and why are the claims coming in from your county versus this county doesn't, this other branch doesn't have these issues? A lot of that comes back to, what risk management is in place. Is it just bad luck and bad timing? Things happen. We know that they're going to happen. And specifically, if we talk about corrections, we have 24 member counties, we have 22 jails. And anything can happen in any one of those 22 jails. But it could be Cowlitz County today, it could be Thurston County tomorrow.
Yeah.
It could.
And I know
anywhere.
counties can issue, I'm talking specifically about risk pool. You guys you said up against the guardrail. Is that a management reason, or is there?
That's member county claims and settlements. That is external forces. It's not, it is not the adjusters that we have on staff settling things for more than they should. And I say that because we work so closely with our member counties. So on a Cowlitz County claim with Shelley and with Doug, we're talking about the valuation of a claim. What are our good facts? What are our bad facts, if there are one or the other? And how should we attack this? So if the thought was, is this a claims management issue, then it's the membership as a whole, because we are so, it's almost a co-adjusting, where like if you have a claim on your auto insurance, you submit it to your auto insurance carrier and you probably never hear anything again other than you get your car fixed, right? I rear-ended somebody at a stoplight, take care of it. And I don't want to, you'll take care of it. I'm not going to hear anything again. I'm going to take my car to the shop. I'm going to get it fixed and we're going to be done. That doesn't happen. That's not the way that we're set up, is that a claim is submitted to the pool and then the county never hears about it again. We have many times that we're exchanging communications, phones, emails, Zoom calls, so that we're all in the boat. as to what's going on with a particular claim.
Going to add, since I've been here almost 2 years in April, um, we meet monthly to speak about all tort claims, litigation claims, and there hasn't been one claim where they've decided without Doug, without our legal counsel, as well as my input. So it's very much a collaboration of where do we think this, how is this impacting staff if it's a
Yeah.
staff issue? There's many variables that we go through before we decide on denial of a claim or approval of a claim. So it's very much a collaboration.
You worked for me for a while.
Yes.
And you kind of know what I'm asking here, and I don't want to put you on the spot, but if you don't see a management issue, I'm probably gonna,
I don't. And I would say I worked closely with Derek prior to Chuck becoming the new executive director. Very professional, great at communication. All of their claims adjusters that I've had interaction with have been nothing but professional. They know their industry and they know their claims. They've done their research. If we have a similar claim to another county, we get the backstory. So I would say there hasn't been a time where I've been throwing my hands up in the air going, I wish I'd had better relationships, better communication. It's very much monthly, sometimes daily communication on some claims, but they're always there to pick up the phone, answer an email. Earlier this year, we had a department that really wanted some specialized training about resolving conflict in the workplace. We want people to be able to come to work and want to come to work. So I reached out to the risk pool and I knew some speakers or some people, some key players that could come in and do an in-house, what's going on? How do we make this culture better? And the risk pool was within 2 hours able to get me a contact phone number, set up that department with bringing someone in-house. And as far as I know, it went off. It was a great hit. And it was wonderful communication, and it was someone here local. So even those more specialized things that you can't put a price tag on, I'm reaching out to them daily. When I call Bryden or some of the risk pool people, I go, it's me again. Like they know my voice now. I don't have to introduce myself because it is so much of they're an extension of what we do. If that answers your questions.
Mr. Chair, can I just ask one more
yeah,
question?
absolutely.
At our last meeting, Chuck, you had just gotten back from London
Yes.
looking for reinsurers on our insurance ladder. With Washington State being such a hostile state, if you will, where are we at with finding reinsurers in that insurance ladder so that we can get some relief as far as what we're having to fill in that SIR?
Absolutely. Great question. And I don't have a complete answer for you. And I say that because one of the things that's happened that I've seen evolve since I've been with the risk pool for the last 6.5 years. It was almost like we would get our quotes, so to speak, from our reinsurers 30 days in advance of a renewal or the meeting for the board to make decisions. I'm hoping I get them today. I hope tomorrow. Our executive committee meeting is this Friday. In the last 2 years, we haven't had all of the numbers from the reinsurers and excess insurers. So we've gone to the executive committee meeting saying, this is pending, but this is what we think the forecast is going to be. We have seen the domestic insurers wanting to move up the ladder, meaning that they want us to take on a larger SIR. But we've also many different factors that are playing into the public sector market with the insurers. But the reality is that what they call a working layer, like this is where 99% of your claims are. They want that to be your SIR or under your SIR. They want to be for the catastrophic versus getting involved in a lot of claims. So what are our options? If our domestic insurers are pushing for higher SIRs or they're raising rates and it's becoming, it's not cost effective, which means when we look at what PricewaterhouseCoopers, the actuary, says, this layer of insurance should cost you X. And then we get a quote and it's way above that. Then we have to make the decision, the board has to make the decision, do we self-insure that layer? And that has happened this last year. So right now we have a $3 million SIR. Safety National is the next $5 million to get us to 8. Chubb was the 2 million X of 8, and they raised their price way too high. And I believe our actuaries said it should be 1.8 million and they were like 2.9. So the risk pool decided, the board of directors decided to self-insure that. So we have Cowlitz County has its deductible. We have the remainder of the SIR. Then Safety National steps in. Then the pool has to step in again above that. And then it goes to the excess insurance market, the insurers that we work with. So we evaluate that at every level of all of the options that are there. But one of the things that has happened, I know that the schools, the large Washington schools risk management pool, they purchased their reinsurance from the London market. So it is a viable market for us that I did go over to London, met with insurers over a couple of days. We have not seen their quotes yet. So I do not know what they're going to come back with from a pricing standpoint. They may be competitive, they may not be competitive. I just don't know. We're waiting to see. So again, I'm hoping to have everything by Friday for the executive committee with numbers. I don't know if it will happen or not, but we will have the numbers by we better have the numbers, my guess or my hope, by the board meeting at the end of the month. But I can tell you that the last two renewal years, the board authorized the final selection of insurers to the executive committee so that, because we didn't have all the numbers. So once we got the numbers before the 10-1 renewal, the executive committee convened to select all of the insurers to make it happen because it was the 11th hour at that point. So my goal is to not have it be the 11th hour unless it's the 11th hour for the board meeting versus having to have the executive committee. And something that I should also point out, because I know I said 10-1. The risk pool was founded on 10-1 of 1988, and that was its fiscal year. Why they chose 10-1, I cannot tell you. But what I can tell you is that it created issues that we would set all of our rates in July for 10-1. And then our counties would do their budgeting at the end of the year for their next fiscal year. And they would call and say, what are we looking at for an assessment for next October? And I don't know. There's no way for us to predict that. I mean, we can kind of say the market is doing X or Y, but there's no guarantees. So this last year, we've entered into a 15-month policy coverage. So instead of 10-1 a few days ago, we ended our fiscal year for 2024, 2025, and we're right now in a 3-month stub year. And then starting 1/1 of 26 and moving forward, we will be in lockstep with our member counties. So when we set our rates in the fall at the October board meeting, for the assessments, then our member counties will actually have a number and not a guesstimate for your budgeting purposes starting 1/1. So I didn't want to confuse when we talk about dates of 10-1 and when we got things as far as our numbers from the insurers. We got to the point where we were able to just make the change. And so we've made the change. It's just coming through the final steps right now.
Thanks, Chuck.
Yep, absolutely.
Okay.
Any other questions?
No, I appreciate you coming in.
Absolutely.
It's been helpful and educational for me. I appreciate that.
Thank you for your time.
Absolutely. Thank you for your time. And if there's ever any other questions, I'm an email or phone call away. And let's chat.
Okay.
So thank you.
Yep.
Okay, well. Head into agenda item review. I've seen public records, IT. Do we have? Is Bailey doing that? Okay. So, where am I here? Let's skip down to Public Works.
Good morning, Commissioner Sean Rowe, Public Works. We have quite an agenda for you tomorrow.
I see that.
The first one up is a call for bids for the revised county road project for the replacement of Allender Road Bridge. And that's scheduled to open November 10th at 1:30. And then we have a bunch of,
What's the? I know you guys do an engineer's estimate, or do you know, kind of know where that's at? Susan probably know.
Susan will have
I'm
that
sure it's a
tomorrow.
big figure.
yeah, I'm unsure on that. And then items 4 through 12, I'm gonna hand over to Anna here and she's gonna give you the rundown on all that.
All right, Anna Lunday, Public Works right-of-way agent. So there are a series of consultant agreements that were established 3 years ago. They are for appraisal services as well as right-of-way negotiator services or cases that the workload is more so than our staff can do with the 2 right-of-way agents that we have locally. Usually the reason that we call them up is for necessary certifications that those individuals have to work for the state that we do not have in-house quite yet. So there are 7 appraisers and 3 right-of-way agents on the series of consultants. The consultants' agreements are set to expire at the end of the year. So the amendment that we are proposing are to extend each of the agreements for 1 calendar year to expire at the end of 2026.
That's 4 through 12.
Correct.
We did this last year, I think, right?
Probably.
I think so. So all these we're looking to extend till the end of 2026, okay?
Correct.
And there's no change in compensation. It's just an extension of the existing contract.
Exactly.
Any idea how long those contracts have been running?
3 years.
3 years? 3 years on other stuff, we tend to next year is then go out for bid again. Do we think that might
I
happen
would
maybe
anticipate bid for the 27 moving forward.
as we move forward?
Yeah.
Okay. Sean, maybe have Susan just ship me over kind of, it's not going to be a perfect figure, but a rough figure on Allender.
Yeah. Unfortunately, she's out of the office today, but she will be here tomorrow.
Okay. Would she be in if I?
Yeah.
It may not come up, but I usually like to kind of just give them a rough idea of what they're going to see.
Yeah, we'll put something together for you.
I'm guessing 7 figures better, but
We'll put something together for you and have it by email today.
okay.
If we want to move on. Yeah, item number 13 is the execution for the Glacier Environmental Services for the headquarters landfill gas collection and control system. We talked about the award on this last week, and this is just the contract execution of it.
Okay.
Then these two.
Good morning, Commissioners. Savannah Clement, Public Services. The next items we have are 17 and 18. Item 17 is actually just creating a public record of all of the documents that we have worked on with Department of Enterprise Services over the last 18 months for the Millig project. I just wanted to make sure, because the board did give approval in open session for Mike to be signer on this, we were able to move forward on those documents by having him sign them, but I wanted to make sure that we included them on record, just to make sure we're doing things right. So all of the resolution itself was recommended by legal just to make sure there was kind of an identifying purpose for putting them on record. And then the subsequent documents with Department of Enterprise Services and Mike's signature are included. So that they become record, they're searchable, it's transparent and open. So that is what that is for. On those documents, again, we did every approval in open session, so nothing should be a surprise or different from what you've already seen. Any questions on that? Hearing none. Item 18 is the resolution to declare an emergency and authorize emergency contract with AES to repair the collapsed storm sewer drain on Sweet Birch Drive. We did workshop this, I believe, last week. The board did sign, but we want to make sure, again, we get it on record through resolution. We actually have crews out there working now, and it is AES. And so what they're doing is essentially creating a new storm drain system in that area connecting to the existing outflow. So I think it'll be a much better, of course, improved situation than what's out there previously. I do have information on that, but because I'm not quite sure the extent of how risk will be involved in the situation, I'm not quite sure, what we can say, but essentially it was an existing storm drain put in by the developer, I think 20 plus years ago, if not more. And at the time, we were able to see, working with Beacon Hill Water Sewer District, they have a really great camera, which we do not have. And so we were able to utilize their staff to help us get some images. And we recognize the need to immediately, of course, replace that, especially in preparation for a very potentially hazardous, conditions with rain. So anyway, that is my update. But as I know more and we have more information, we'll be able to share with the board what's going on. Any questions on that?
Okay.
Okay. Yeah, if you could. That's why I thought you were staying up here. And this is a miscellaneous item, but also has to do with that resolution. And Anna's going to go ahead and explain that really quick.
All right. Again, Anna Lunde, Public Works right-of-way agent. In order to have access to the property with construction teams to ensure that we have more than just right of entry, but we have documented possession and use of the lands. I've created a possession and use agreement that was notarized by the husband and wife landowners. And then I'm going to need acknowledgement from the board on that document, get it recorded in order to move forward with our construction teams.
And that just, it just allows us to go on site on both properties to mitigate and repair. It's just kind of the legal documentation process of that.
So there's two property owners involved in that.
So the way that the easement works is, yes, so the original, not the original, but the property owner that the storm drain exists on their property, because we're relocating the entire drain to a new, it's between the two properties. And so we will have to go on to the neighboring property to complete the repair and relocate, I should say. It's not even a repair at this point. It's a brand new line. So it does affect both parties. And I'm not quite sure, do we have to add?
Jackson puts it in a better place.
Absolutely, yes, we are. A much better place that we actually, and the property owners thought it was originally. So where it probably should have been. Do we need an official motion to have the chairperson sign, or are we okay just having, do we need anything?
Be helpful.
Okay, do I ask for that? Or just?
You want to,
You want a motion?
I think we have to have something like okaying board signature.
Mr. Chairman, I make a motion to authorize the repairs for the Sweet Birch Drive emergency construction project.
Specific to possession and use.
Huh?
Specific to possession and use document.
Okay. For the possession and law and use agreement document.
Okay.
That works?
We have a motion to approve this possession and use agreement. Any questions, comments? We're all good? See no hands? Call for a vote. Those in favor? Aye. Okay, you good?
Thank
Hey,
you.
Before you take off.
Yeah.
We had you have something else, Sean?
Oh,
We have one more agenda item,
oh,
but we
Okay.
can go through this first, so please.
Well, I want to have because we had a short conversation on the phone and you mentioned, and we will talk to our reps about that, but the increase in the doc fee is causing people to just not even file their documents,
not record them. Mm-hmm.
not record them.
Mm-hmm.
And what kind of, it can't, in real estate transactions, they're going to have to, but what are some of the transactions we're seeing that they're just not recording?
One just very recent one that kind of started us talking about it in the office is a survey adjustment that was done after a survey that was done, not recorded and updated, that had this should have absorbed some property that wasn't originally recorded. And Anna actually did a little bit of research work on this for us. And so what had happened is a person came in, they're like, I want to buy this parcel that's between mine and my neighbor. It's just like a weird, looked like an easement or a road easement. And it looked like that to us too. And so we sent it to our survey team and right away team to research. And they were like, this is a ghost parcel. It's not roads. It's actually the northern property owners. But when they got a survey and a subsequent divorce, it was never absorbed back into the property correctly because they didn't record the survey after the divorce with a divorce decree because of likely the cost or whatever had happened that just didn't get recorded. So not only did they not record a survey that would have cleared this up, they also didn't record the divorce decree that would have, cleared things up property-wise and naming. So we had this ghost parcel. And so we had to work with the assessor's office, with their GIS team. Our GIS team worked on it, Anna, Paul, like a lot of staff resources. And honestly, I think if we didn't have that institutional like knowledge and background on this type of stuff, I mean, it could have been one of those situations where, because it's a tax parcel, is it also taxed? And if nobody was paying taxes on it, could it have gone to foreclosure? And so, and it's all because, well, things just weren't recorded appropriately, and we're seeing it come up more and more because of the cost. When you're $300 to $400, to record a 2-page document, and people aren't prepared to pay that, or they'll say, I'll do it later at a later time and then never do, or they pass away or they get divorced, it causes a lot of issues as far as real estate and recording transactions go. And that's just with public works. I don't know what else is happening because of the high costs.
I'm guessing that title companies won't catch some of this stuff and
Yeah.
it's going to create some problems
Yeah.
for
And-
people down the road.
I would think.
But I don't know how how would you, identify what might be out there? I don't know of any way. I can't think of any way.
Because you don't know what you don't know. Yeah, we wouldn't, until they come up and these weird things happen and we start looking into it, or, I don't know. I can say just the overall cost, as we all know in this room, of everything increasing. Surveys are very, very expensive now because they're all private and it's a business. And so the surveys themselves are very expensive, let alone those additional costs to record everything. So that also may be problematic because not only is the cost of the survey, but then they have additional costs afterwards that we might see some issues moving forward too. So.
Don't surveyors record their results automatically as part of their fee?
Some do, some do, some it's on the burden of the property owner if they want it recorded, right? If they get a survey that's not super favorable to them, there's not that burden to record, especially if they have to pay, $500-$600 to do it with all the pages. Just kind of human nature. So, I think we'll see effects of that too eventually, but, or we do here and there, you can't really help that. It's not a cost thing, it's preference. I did think of a couple other items as far as kind of that conversation about, how things that we could change at the state level. So I hope to bring that forward too here in the near future.
trouble on the horizon.
What's that?
I said there's trouble on the horizon.
No, no, all troubles I feel like you guys are aware of. I'm seeking funding for the facade repair, so you guys are aware of that. It's just that the state funding opportunities, there aren't a lot. So it would be nice if there could be some opportunities opened up from the state level for that type of stuff. So that's just one item.
That's a conversation with our reps and senator, because
Yeah.
they can do some of that assignment.
Mhm.
And like I told you, if we
Mhm.
just give us a dollar amount, we can talk to them about that.
Okay, that'd be great.
Okay,
then-
sorry, that was a little bit of a rabbit hole.
No, you're fine. This is great stuff here. The last agenda item is on motion. It is the contract execution with Pano AI. This is the tower-based camera system. Primarily, the use is for fire detection at the landfill. You know, we're taking the two-prong approach, a macro and a micro approach. This is the macro, large scale. The ancillary benefits to it are it covers pretty much the entire Silver Lake Valley Toutle area. Even to the west side of I-5 on certain parts of the map. The cost to us is $40,000 annually for a 5-year term. This follows the same contract length as our tower lease with Weyerhaeuser for the tower itself. Took us a little while to get here, but we're here in the end.
Okay,
Okay, I do, on an extension of that, sorry. I do plan to bring to the board, Sean mentioned the micro attempt. We went out to bid and we did not get any bids, so we went out to a vendor to give us an updated price for that micro, which is the on-site, on-fill heat detection unit. So it's an actual unit that'll be like on a skid steer that we can move around on the fill to detect hot spots right there on that lower level. And then with the assistance, of course, Pano with the broader. So I hope to bring that to the board soon as well. So just a heads up on that. That's all we have.
So that's different than the units that we talked about putting on the towers?
Well, so I think what Pano is on the tower.
Mhm.
And then this is equipment that's based on the fill itself. So it'll look like a little robot unit that we can cart around essentially. I mean, I'm dumbing it down obviously, but that's what it is. And it's on site so that if Pano's kind of, we've already detected the smoke, you know, it might be farther along in the process where this will help us detect things on site.
Okay.
Yeah, and it has an alarm feature as well. So it'll help us before it gets to the point of hopefully, you know, needing Pano's detection, we could stop it earlier.
We didn't already deal with this? I thought this has already come up and we already took
Yeah.
action on it.
We did a sole source on it.
Mhm.
We had some hangups around the tower itself, maintaining the contract there that did expire. So we came through, did a new agreement with Weyerhaeuser for the tower itself. And then we had some legal items to take care of on the contract. And that finally all settled. And so now we're here to ask permission to sign the contract.
Sean's got a cape of red tape behind him that he has maneuvered through to get to here. So yes, you're correct. This has been in front of you several times.
So are we buying this equipment or are we renting it?
It's a 5-year lease.
Okay.
The equipment is Pano's equipment.
Mhm.
It's just the complexities was the Weyerhaeuser Tower, the sole source. So it was just some hoops that we had to jump through to get it in place
Okay.
contractually and yeah. Okay, if there's anything else for us, we are done.
Okay.
Thank you.
Bailey?
Travis is on too.
Okay.
Bailey Silva, Public Records. I just have number 16 on the agenda, which is the master service agreement and addendum number 1 with just FOIA for the public records management system, and Travis is online as well.
Good morning. Is this a renewal of the one we use?
This is,
Is this the one we've been trying to move to?
this is the one we've been trying to move to.
Okay.
And my request for tomorrow will be for the board to approve the chairman to sign the contract, because right now we just have a couple little adjustments that needed to be made, so I don't have a final contract today. But that price will not be any different.
Okay. Sorry, Bailey, you're gonna have to refresh me. We were looking at this before and then we stopped because wasn't there something we had to figure out with the old one?
So when we wanted to terminate GovQA, which is what we've used since 2019, we went to see the termination clause in the contract and we could not find our GovQA contract. So last year, we finally got our GovQA contract in place so that we would have the termination clause. And then we've been working on this contract for quite some time.
Okay,
Yeah.
So the changes that need to be made aren't material changes to the contract.
Nope, there was just like CCing who the invoice goes to. Travis can add additional, they were his changes. I think one of them was unfortunately the timeline was a little off and the quote expired on October 5th and that has come and gone, so we needed to adjust that too.
And we're making a minor change to the cancellation terms so that we have 90 days in the event they should give notice instead of 30 days, that we have time to find another provider.
I know you've been working on this a while and I know there was reasons you wanted to go to this versus the other. They'd offered things that the other didn't offer. You might have to refresh me, sorry.
Yeah, so for example, like with GovQA, they limit our redaction licenses, so we have to pay per redaction license, and Julie Harris in the sheriff's office also is included in that, so we needed like 13 redaction licenses, for example, and we only had 10, so we were constantly switching them, and then they have unlimited redaction licenses. We also just had technical issues with the system, and reaching out to their support was not the best, and just overall, I think the workflow internal and for the public will be better with this new system.
And some other
And-
places use this now and
Yeah, so hopefully we will have this up and running by the end of the year. And we aren't using it yet, but once we get this all approved, we can start building out the system. And it is an overall cost savings to what we're currently paying GovQA.
this is a more favorable cost than what
Yeah.
GovQA was charging us.
I think there was a question about, are there other entities using this? And I think you've done some reference checks. Do you want to speak to that?
Oh, yeah, there are other agencies in Washington using this software. I've talked extensively with the city of Kennewick and Kitsap County, and it's either Kitsap or Kittitas. I get those two mixed up, but one of those counties, and there's others as well.
And is just FOIA, is it easier to work with and more compatible with some of the other software that we use for storage or anything like that moving forward compared to GovQA?
This Just FOIA does have Laserfish integration that we could at some point utilize, but we didn't feel like we needed to pay the additional costs since that's not how we currently operate, but that could be used in the future if we wanted it to. And Laserfish repository is a big system in our county, so.
I think to answer part of the question, maybe it is perceived to be much more efficient to utilize the product. And I think that's ultimately a lot of the reason for the move, is that the efficiency gains, the usability are just much higher than the existing Granicus GovQA product.
Another benefit that I see too for the public is right now with GovQA, if you go to submit a request on the portal, you have to create a login. With Just FOIA, it also allows you, you can create a login to keep track of all your requests, but they also have like the ability to just have a PIN code sent to your email, so you don't have to have like the login, and sometimes that does create difficulties for people when they don't use the system that often and they forget their password, they have to call and reset it. So it'll just be more of a user-friendly thing, I think, for the public as well.
So this product doesn't have a compatibility issue with any of our previous ways of storing records?
This won't store any records besides, only thing this will store is records we're pulling out of other systems and producing to the public, which is just the same as we do with GovQA right now.
Okay.
So it won't like independently store records that don't exist elsewhere.
Okay. Thanks, Bailey. Thanks, Travis. Gina?
Hey, good morning, Gina James, Health and Human Services. We have one motion item on the agenda tomorrow. This is in relation to our developmental disabilities contracts. We saw last week the state contract with a couple of the pass-throughs to providers. This is an additional pass-through with a provider agency for those services. We will have one more at maybe the next meeting as well. So we're just getting that back from the provider. Any questions on that?
A new group for us here?
We have had a contract with Employers Overload for a couple of years, but they are fairly newer. They serve just a
Yeah.
handful of clients, yeah.
And I didn't clarify it last time, but I think these contact tracks, they pay the provider to help the person, right?
Right,
Whatever the person makes, they would get from the business.
Correct.
If there was something there. This is really to help coach and guide the person.
yes, exactly. The business doesn't get any of this funding itself. It doesn't go towards paying the client. The business does all of that. This is for the support for the individual to do their job or help them find a job and maintain their job.
Okay.
Yep. Then I had one other item I wanted to touch base on. Housing Opportunities of Southwest Washington is working on a new project out in West Longview, out by Roy Morse Park. They're in the process of securing funding for a new development similar to Sunrise Village. Their plans include about 74 units of housing, combination of 1, 2, and 3 bedroom units out there. They are putting in an application to the state for the housing trust funds and have asked if the county could provide a letter of support that they can submit with their application. They plan to submit it next week. And so support from local jurisdictions really helps in those applications. We touched also on a funding request that she has, which she wasn't asking for the board to commit to anything like that today. She's happy to come in. Their director is happy to come in and do a full presentation and talk more about a funding request. But she did say it would be helpful if in the letter of support, we could include some language that, says there's a potential of a funding commitment in the future or something like that to show that the board is willing to consider that. So I just wanted to touch base. We're, as Health and Human Services is happy to write the letter and provide her with that, but I wanted to just touch base on the, potential of a funding commitment piece and see if that's something the board's comfortable with.
Well, I know we did with Sunrise Village, we committed
Mhm.
some money and I know what she's asking for over there. And I'll just tell you, personally, I'm probably okay helping them. I mean, it provides some housing. What I'm struggling with here a little bit is I've had people in my ear and come to understand that some of these units are going to people that are not from this country. And so I'm wondering how they give units to non-citizens when we have citizens having it. And the way I understand it is if they have kids that are born here that are citizens, that they're given it even though the parents aren't. And I'm going to tell you right up front, I struggle with that because if we're funding these things from our taxpayers, our people should have rights to them. That's just one man's opinion, but
Mhm.
I'm just gonna be honest with you on it.
Yeah, and I'm happy to ask her to clarify and touch base on that if she comes. Like I said, she's happy to come and do a presentation to talk more about what the project looks like. I can definitely ask her to touch on that.
We haven't been opposed to those type of projects. I mean, we did campus towers, we did
Mhm.
Sunrise. Personally, I think they cost more than they should.
Amen.
Yeah,
Every time.
Yeah,
but we have shown a willingness to do that. It just, I throw out that one caution,
Yeah.
I probably, well, I know I will have that question.
sure, sure. Okay, so is it okay if we prepare that letter in support of the project in general?
Guys can do that. Yeah.
And then with a potential of considering a funding commitment in the future? Would that be okay? Okay. Okay, and I'll ask her to touch on that one piece too. Okay. Okay, thank you.
Thank you.
Speaking of support, I'm making an assumption here, but I think we're probably good with this letter Jeff Wilson.
Yep,
did on-
absolutely.
Okay. So we'll do that. All right.
Do we need to sign that individually or do it online or what do we need to do?
I think she'll probably send it to us DocuSign.
It's,
Perfect.
That would be my guess. Jessica.
Good morning, Jessica Warren, Human Resources. I have a request for 2 executive sessions, one under performance of a public employee and one under qualifications of an applicant.
Okay, performance of a public employee and qualifications of applicant, timeframe,
Let's say 10 minutes for both.
10 minutes for both? Okay. You're optimistic this morning.
yeah.
Trying to be.
Okay, we'll adjourn to executive session.
The board is extending the executive session for a period of 5 minutes until 11:03 a.m.
Sorry. Back for executive session, no decisions rendered. Jessica, I'll turn it to you.
Jessica, Human Resources again. I have a request to fill the Finance Director position due to Kathy's upcoming retirement.
Okay,
Okay. And that's all I have.
Trinidad's next.
Trinidad. We had, I think I have them here. Three people from Great Rivers, the advisory board.
Yes, good morning, and Trinidad Medina, Chief Executive Director, Great Rivers BHASO. I'm here this morning to share some information about our advisory board reappointments. Great Rivers BHASO is an organization that is responsible for the behavioral health crisis system in our 5-county region, which includes Cowlitz, Wahkiakum, Pacific, Grace Harbor, and Lewis counties. We also administer federal block grant funding and are responsible for implementing other legislatively directed programs such as the Recovery Navigator Program and Youth Navigator Program. So our advisory board is a group of up to 11 individuals and one tribal representative from the tribes within our region. And they are 3-year appointments for the members that have applied. We have some responsibility in approving the federal block grant plans, mental health and substance abuse block grant plans. So the advisory board member will review that and make a formal approval. They review policy and procedure, make recommendations to the governing board for approval, but more importantly, bring local input and knowledge about services within each of the counties we represent to the board for discussion and quality improvement reasons. And there's a quick summary of our advisory board and the ASO. I know we've shared a little bit about some of the services we're responsible for previously. But I'd like to ask if you all have any questions for me today.
I think we know a couple of them pretty well. I mean, I'm assuming you're happy with all these.
I was not included in the who submitted applications, but if they're all renewals, then yes. They're all renewals, then yes. So Gina James. with the
Gina
Cowlitz
James is
County
one.
Health Department, Marin Fox.
Marin
from
Fox
Department of
and
Corrections.
Beth Fellows.
Beth Fellows, yes.
And she's Red Hat. That's a great store down there.
Yeah, so yes, we are supportive of those those applicants.
I'm assuming nobody has issues. I don't know. You don't want to take another look at this, Gina? Yeah.
No, she's great. I asked her, do you really want to join again? Because I don't know how long you've been on our board. She's been on the ASO advisory board since we began operations in 2020. And prior to that, the BHO advisory board. So yeah, lots of service there and we appreciate it because it's a lot of information. I mean, there's a lot of complexities to the behavioral health system. And so it's great to have the tenure that we have in our board.
Okay. We will approve those.
All right. Well, thank you
Thanks,
so much.
Ed. I appreciate it. Good to see you.
Yeah, good to see you. Good day. Thank you.
Policy workshop, AI. Do you guys want to lead that? Yeah. We got 3 mics. Oh, we got 4 people, 3 mics. And Travis, He was on.
Yeah.
No, see him right now.
Yeah, he's on. It's coming.
Okay.
Is your mic on? We got David and Jason from prosecutor's office. We got Bailey here. I think Travis is online. There
Yeah.
he is.
Good morning. I'm here.
So I don't know, Travis, did you want to start out?
Sure. I think I'm having a little difficulty with my voice, but I'll do what I can. To summarize, we've met at the request of Commissioner Dahl. He was interested in having us pursue an AI policy. We've had some internal discussion, and I think the purpose here today is to get some feedback from the board collectively to understand if there are particular interests or things that they'd like to accomplish, so that we're doing something that reflects the commissioners as a whole, as opposed to one individually. And I think that's kind of what I recall. So I want to make sure, Jason, David, is that the way you remembered it also?
Yes, thank you, Travis. I think David and I agree that the first question in order is, do we want AI to be utilized by the county?
Yeah. I had this conversation with Travis and with Doug also, and I don't know that we can prevent it. I think it's one of those things that's come along, it's going to be used, and I think it has some good things it can do. I think it has some things you got to really be careful on. Now, I've always been I've never been like a leading edge guy that's willing to test the leading edge, but I think it can have some real benefits down the road, but it has some weaknesses that we kind of have to, and I guess you guys would be better at that to me, to kind of corral. So when we operate with it, we're in a safe mode, because I understand whatever you put in there can, once it's on record, it's out there for everybody to see.
Yeah, I think that makes sense. I think from a big picture, I suppose you could have a policy that says, we don't like AI, we don't want any department employees using AI and creating work product, or you can, and I think to your point, it probably does make sense to do one, but it's obviously a policy decision to make one. And there's some examples of, you had the risk pool up this morning.
Mhm.
They have, and one of the things they brought to your attention was their forum bank, policy bank. So we talked to Shelley and got access to that. And we saw a handful, Thurston County, Spokane County, Mason County, they all have AI policies. WaTech that you identified to us has some guidelines. And I think those provide some good examples of, like, big picture. If you do have a AI policy, some things in there about, like, if county employees are going to use it, prohibit them in a policy from putting in confidential or sensitive information, manage public records appropriately. If a employee is using it to create work product, identify that that was a starting point and require that any work product has to be vetted by a human before it goes out. These are kind of like big picture things we're seeing across multiple policies. We read through
Yeah.
all of them, and they have some good content in there. And I think we're just wanting to make sure we're on the same page as we, if we're moving forward with a policy, which is what the board wants, and then two, if those kind of big picture things make sense to you, and if you had additional input.
I'm in favor of it. It's not gonna go away. It's here. And there are a lot of benefits to it. And I think that if we can be proactive with developing protocols to mitigate any, as Chairman put it, pitfalls, then I think let's do it. Let's move forward. And it may have to be something that we adjust and make amendments to as we move forward and come across certain situations that we have no way to foresee. But I think it's smart of us to move forward with one.
I guess I have a concern about how many different AI things that are out there. I can think of about 4 or 5 right off the top of my head, different AI services.
Oh, yeah,
And,
that's a point, yeah.
and
Didn't the feds just say they're going with Grok or something?
there's Grok, Perplexity. I've never heard of Perplexity till our Washington State
Yeah,
the Supreme Court, chief of the Supreme Court, the gal that spoke over at the Hall of Justice, she mentioned it when she was doing a speech over there and said that, hey, has anybody ever heard of Perplexity? I use it all the time when I'm going to go to a college and make a speech. I just tell it, I want a 5-minute speech on this subject. So I put it on my phone and I did it just to see what it would do. Ask it a question to give me a 3-minute speech on Juneteenth. And it gave me a 3-minute speech like that. So I said, I said, give it to me in a 2-minute speech, and it cut it down to a 2-minute speech, just bang. So I don't even know what all it's capable of, but I know all of these different services that are out there, depending on how their algorithms are put together, they're going to give you different answers for the same subject. So I really like staying in person, talking with people, but you get into this whole subject when you're sending emails, I don't know that you know who the heck you're talking to.
yeah, you know, that's a good point from Travis, maybe you can weigh in a little bit. When we had a conversation, it was said, that's why we use Microsoft Mail, because it has some controls in there versus Google that is just out to everybody. Are you seeing anything in the AI world where some are starting to maybe have a little bit of controls versus just others, or not?
Yeah, I mean, different services are going to have different controls, and generally speaking, Google is a very open company and uses your data, right? I mean, your data is what they're using as a service in multiple ways, and Microsoft in general is providing you a different set of services. They're typically not going to sell your data and allow you to make it more private without disclosing it. So those are very broad strokes, but I think in general, you know, there are services that are even built into other products. And so you're certainly going to have services that are built and customized to provide you summaries of things, meetings and other things. You're also going to find services that are going to be used to do certain functions. So whether it's, you know, you have a illustrative product that's used to make images and it helps you make those images, right? So there's all sorts of ways that AI is going to be used. I think we commonly see it in the GPT and chat sort of function, but it's also going to extend beyond that. Just in the past 2 weeks, I've seen multiple meetings from the county where people have connected services, and it now is transcribing, recording, summarizing meetings. And those are third-party services. Microsoft natively can do that. We haven't yet gotten to the point of enabling that in the county, but there are third-party services that allow you to do that. And so, you know, there's all sorts of uses for AI. And I think all of them are going to have their own methods of protecting your data or selling your data.
Yeah, well, I think that's kind of to Commissioner Farrell's point. If we in here, we say we're going to use Microsoft for our email because it has these protections, does it make some kind of sense to say, hey, we're going to use Grok or we're going to use whoever because it has this type of protections, and this would be the service that we would like the county people to use? I mean, are we at a point that you can even identify that one would have some superiority over another?
I don't think we're there yet. I think what we're trying to do initially is formulate requirements or interests, and then come up with a set of tools that will help accomplish that, that provide the right security and the right balance for cost. There's certainly going to be some of those that are the go-tos. Microsoft is going to be a go-to most likely because we already consume a lot of Microsoft services. It's almost going to be difficult not to use their services. So they're likely going to be a key player. I think there's going to be some outliers. So for example, speaking specifically for IT, because that's what I know best, there are IT functions where there are complementary services within some of our products that will naturally look at the log files that are created and make recommendations based on the data that it sees there for security reasons, for example. So, we're going to have some general information about things that everybody's going to want to do. But then there's also going to be some things that are going to have to be evaluated on a case-by-case basis because they're specific to a function.
I think both Travis and Commissioner Farrell bring up a good point about, as well as yourself, Commissioner Dahl, whether we want to have a unified platform within the county or individualized platforms within the county. Obviously, there's benefits to having a unified platform because it's more readily accessible for IT. They know what is coming in and out of with communications. They can work better within the programs themselves, I believe, at least through our discussions with Travis. But monitoring and ensuring that any disclosure is appropriate and avoiding disclosing stuff that is confidential or protected can also be accomplished by having that unified platform. That's something for you commissioners to consider. Hey, do we want to stick just with Microsoft as Travis is suggesting, or do we want to have, multiple departments on multiple different AI engines? And the policies that we've reviewed suggest that having that unified approach is the preferred. But that's again a question and a conversation that you three gentlemen need to have.
Yeah.
One of the things I noticed, like when I think it's when I'm on a Zoom meeting, now I'm seeing a little window, it keeps popping up. It says, would you like to have a summarized version of this meeting? And I keep closing it. It's got to be some type of an AI app that's popping in on a Zoom meeting. But even if we decided we were going to have a unified platform, does that mean we can block all other access so people couldn't use any other AI platform?
It doesn't necessarily mean that. So in the case of Zoom, for example, just using them specifically, if the county is using Zoom, we have more control over what happens. But if you connect to Zoom for a business in the county and they are running or hosting the session, then they may have permissions to enable it. And so, that may vary by who's hosting is another way of saying that. So if we're hosting, we have more control. And generally speaking, I've seen that also. I made reference to that a few minutes ago where I was in a meeting earlier this week and automatically Zoom was trying to record the meeting. And that's because someone in the meeting who had host privileges had enabled that function. And it only takes one person. And in the case of Zoom, Zoom requires that you're notified of that. In the case of Teams or other communication services, the notification policies are a little different. So it may not be as obvious. You can generally stop that by having a host eject what appears to be a user from the meeting so that they can't continue recording and transcribing and summarizing. But that's all based on the service and the specific meeting. So it's a kind of a combination of circumstances.
Yeah.
Do we limit those opportunities, Travis, by having a unified platform?
I don't know if we limit them. We could limit them. I think we need to kind of figure out what are the required functions. So for example, I think it's advantageous for the county to have a service that is going to summarize the meetings. I think that's just one of those things that generally speaking, people who've used it would say is a benefit from AI and one of the things that it does well. Microsoft can do that natively in a Microsoft meeting. I don't believe that Microsoft has a service that will do that in a Zoom meeting. I don't know that for sure, but that's as far as I know right now, they do not. So we could look at another service that would do that, assuming Zoom doesn't have their own. And if we use that and enable that for the county, we could then potentially block others, but also by making it available to those in the county as a preferred or a standard option, there may be less reason to use others. So I think, you know, by the process of evaluating what's the right tool and making it available, I think even if we don't prohibit others, it will probably be the one that most people would prefer to use. And that's specifically as it relates to, you know, recording, summarizing meetings.
I don't, just to chime in briefly, I don't think we need to like specifically name which platform we're going to use. For example, in the Spokane County policy, they had pretty good language about, about how whatever it is needs to be funneled through IT. So they have a paragraph that says authorized use. County personnel may only use generative AI for approved business-related purposes from county-approved devices using IT-approved generative AI software. Use of generative AI software requires approval by the Spokane County Information Technology Department per county acceptable use policy and IT security standards manual. So we already have existing IT policies about like platforms and what we can use and like use of technology policy. And the reason why I like looking at the policies that are up on the risk pool page, like the Spokane County, Thurston County, is because the structure of the county government is the same as ours. And they are appropriately funneling through the AI stuff into that it needs to be vetted through IT. So if we have broader language like that, it gives us the flexibility that if someone has a specific need for a specific IT usage, that might be fine as long as it's approved by IT and vetted appropriately. So if that makes sense.
Mhm.
Yeah.
So I think one of the answers we were looking for today is, do we want to move forward? And I think the answer to that is yes. And do you think what David's suggestion makes sense to start with? And then when we have something on paper, we can look at it from there. Does that make sense?
That's good for me. I think
That work?
from my perspective, in an ideal view, we'd kind of look at some of the county policies that are up on the pool website, work with Travis and Bailey on kind of the big picture things that we would want to see, and then they can have specific input on certain things. I don't know if that works for you, Travis.
Sure.
Bailey, did you have anything?
I would just say that it's already being used, so
Yeah.
it's important to get here and continue the conversations.
Not PRA, but the impact of this policy.
Yeah, I think we're good. I think we're
Okay.
I think we're on the same page.
Okay,
Thank you.
perfect.
Thank you.
Thanks for your time.
Good luck.
Okay. Unless there's something else, I think we're good for the day. We all good? Okay. We will adjourn. Thank you.
Thank you.